The last attempt at the race between these two before the blue screen happened was actually going really close, so we should be in for a good race here, hopefully. After we saw Paper Guy wrap up his qualification earlier this morning against Osu Bluebuck. Unfortunately, both runners being on emulator means there is a small chance that we could see another blue screen, but we'll just have to hope that doesn't happen again. Swags with a very slight early lead out of the mashing at the start of the game. Both runners have opted to pick up the PC potion, which generally accepted as the wise approach, but not everyone goes in for it. According to the wise words of one of the top runners of this game, Xarion, you have about a 91% chance of getting an acceptable rival fight without it. And so, if that 10% or so does go against you in a race, and you lose, you can lose a ton of time. It's better to just cut your losses and take the PC potion. Before RNG manipulation was added to Pokemon Red speedrun, it did matter if you picked red over blue because it was a lot easier to get a male Nidoran in Pokemon Red. But with Pokemon Blue only having about a 5% encounter rate for male Nidorans, whereas Red had 30%. But nowadays, with RNG manipulation, it's only very subtle differences, and it's just basically by coincidence that we've settled on picking Red as the version to speedrun. By factors that we couldn't really anticipate without figuring out the RNG manipulations first. Both of them seem to have had a reasonably smooth start to rival fight, although I think they've both been growled at least once as well. Swags with slightly better progress up to this point, but it has just been growled a second time. Looks like Jim might have to pull out his PC potion. That seems to be doing quite a bit worse than I thought it was. He opts to use it at 5 HP, which is a little safe, as in you can only die to a high roll critical from 5 HP, but given that he still has quite a bit more health to knock down, it probably didn't end up mattering, like he would have had to use it anyway. Okay, so Swags with perhaps a 30-second advantage or a little less out of the rival fight, but that can instantly be compensated for if we get too many Route 1 encounters. Good start though. Okay, one encounter right at the end. This could be good still. Pidgey means it's not quite as good, especially since it's level 3. He won't bother killing this. So he's made it out of Route 1 with a single encounter, but doesn't have his experience yet. JimB runs into the Troll level 4 Rat. Doubly Troll because it happens to have 11 speed on this occasion. And with Squirtle being able to have as low as 10 speed, you can fail to run away like JimB did there. You're guaranteed to be able to run away from a Pokemon which you at least speed tie, and only level 4 Rats, and probably level 5 Pidgeys as well, can have 11 speed or more, with Squirtle's speed being at least 10. So it's really unlikely that you get a can't escape on Route 1, but JimB showing off that it can happen. That seemed to be about the worst that Route 1 went for him though. So both players still lacking experience, but not getting too butchered by Route 1 so far. Swags with some interesting movement as he re-enters the lab, trying to talk to Oak from the side to save about half a second, or a quarter of a second rather, from his rival moving less steps on the screen, but not really managing to find where that side was, apparently. JimB with a bit of a cleaner execution there, but still facing a deficit because of the rival fight luck. So of course Swags is the first one out of the lab, despite his little kerfuffle there. And will now be looking for an encounter to kill. Might see him take an extra couple of steps of grass if he has the option. Runs into a level 4 Pidgey, definitely won't try to kill that. Surely? No, okay. If you don't have experience by the time you come back to Route 1 for the third time, you usually kill level 3 Pidgeys at least. But level 4s are a no-go. And Swags will opt to grind at the end of Route 1 for something to kill instead of moving on and getting something later. Level 3 Pidgey's unfortunate, but his opponent's going straight into the same situation, so doesn't seem like a big deal. They might both actually free-shot their Pidgey though. Or they might just both miss it by one health. Jim gets it, Swags gets it. Okay, so they're on equal footing. Jim still has to make it through the rest of Route 1 though. And he has quite a few grass tiles to go. Whereas Swags is home free and heading to the mart now to grab his Pokeballs to catch Nidoran. With RNG manipulation, you're almost guaranteed to get Nidoran first encounter with amazing stats, but there are factors of human error and also slight bits of randomness still in the manipulation. It's certainly not a foolproof thing. We see Swag stays outside the mart to begin the slower but easier perfect stats Nidoran manipulation, and Jim joins them doing the same one. It's been a while since we've seen many runners do this one, because a lot of runners opt for either the harder to execute but faster perfect stat Nidoran or the ridiculously easy to execute but not quite perfect stats Nidoran. But these two both want the perfect stats and are willing to take the small time loss to get them. Swags with no oh no, okay, so Swags misses what is known as the YOLO ball, trying to capture the Nidoran with a single frame perfect thrown YOLO ball with buffered inputs. JimB also misses it, surprising. Swags in the meantime has already tackled Nidoran twice and is going to be throwing balls with a much higher chance to catch, although still not guaranteed. JimB in the process of doing the same. Both of them have a lot of Pokeballs though, so it should be mostly fine. Swag's getting a bit unlucky, but missing 2 balls, but that basically just makes up for his Route 1 lead. And now they are almost dead even, with Jim only having a very small edge. Neither of them will be too happy with missing the first frame YOLO ball, as it's not all that difficult of a trick to pull off, but there is also a 1 in 60 chance that it was out of their control. Though I imagine at least one of the two missed it off their own accord, rather than both of them getting trolled by the 1 in 60 chance for it to just not work. But I couldn't really tell you which one would have screwed it up if either of them did or didn't. So they'll be heading through Viridian Forest, where luckily there are a lot of tiles where you can't get encounters. Unfortunately, Swags... well, okay, he might have got that encounter regardless, but he turns one tile too early and exposes himself to an extra step through grass where he actually can get encounters, and immediately gets an encounter. Jim having a bit cleaner of a forest so far. Makes it to the potion. Now Jim of course was down the PC potion, he had to use it, whereas Swags is still holding on to it. But Swags also opts to pick up the potion before the Weedle go, which means I think he has 3 potions right now. Kind of excessive. But both of them are on quite low health going into the fight as well. So it's not entirely out of the question that they have to heal twice. Swags with a bit more health though. Because Jim ran into that level 4 rat. Jim has completed his 2 tail whips and now is gonna try to kill with 4 tackles, which is a damage range but a fairly favourable one. Swags is the first one to be poisoned. Jim joins him pretty much straight away, but Jim's poison won't matter, whereas Swags might have to heal because of his. Jim is going to have to use his antidote after the battle still, but it really isn't a huge concern when you have to do that. When it didn't make you also have to heal. HP, that is. If anything, it makes it slightly easier since you can sell one for your item. Swag's getting quite a bit more unlucky. In no real danger, but had to potion during the fight, and also missed the 4 hit damage range by 1 health. Swags decides not to potion. I guess he skipped the tree potion because I only see 1 potion in his inventory now. Swags is opting to not go to full HP because he already has quite close to full HP and just heal during the Brock fight if he needs to. JimB has made his way to Brock and saved in front of Brock, which is usually the correct play. You can die to Brock with any Squirtle, but having good special makes it like many multitudes less likely to happen. I'm not sure if either of these two even looked at their special, so they're just both saving anyway. Jim has good special. You can see that he did over half of his bubble to Geodude. If you have bad special on your Squirtle, then you're forced into free-shotting the Geodude on Onix unless you critical. Whereas having good special guarantees a 2-shot. And there is one particular special stat right in the middle which can 2-hit the Geodude and 3-hit the Onix. No, other way around. 3-hit the Geodude and 2-hit the Onix. Swags unfortunately might have a bad Nidoran, which would be sad to see, but 17 health at level 4 is not what you want to see. Swags also does have a bad special Squirtle, but he's got that spare potion. So he should be clear unless he gets an unfortunately timed bide. But we'll have to see if Swags looks at his level up stats. Yeah, okay. So Swags has unfortunately got the short end of the stick here. He has what is known as the 0-0 F0 Nidoran. The Nidoran we're trying to manipulate for has 15 attack, 15 defense, 14 speed and 15 special. If you screw up your manipulation slightly, you get this guy. The Nidoran with 0 attack, 0 defense, 15 speed and 0 special. Which, as you might imagine, is a whole lot worse. The 1 speed does not compensate for having 0 attack, 0 defense and 0 special. So this is going to be rough. At this point I wouldn't be surprised if Swags elects to forfeit. But it looks like he's going to try and carry on for now. But yeah, just expect Swags to have a really rough time of things. As a competitive race, this might already be over. Since he can't really go back and do another Nidoran since he saved before Brock. In the meantime, Jim has the correct Nidoran. And is not on great pace, but is still playing perfectly well. The thing about the 0-0 F0 Nidoran, the false god, is that if you do the manipulation correctly, then it's literally impossible to get one. Or, sorry, that's lying. There is a 1 in 3,600 chance that happens if you do the best manipulation and you execute it correctly. I think the manipulation that these two did, the slightly easier one, has a 1 in 60 chance of getting it. Which is obviously a lot more significant. But if you do the correct one, then it doesn't happen, basically. And if it does, then you've got yourself a highlight-worthy moment. I mean, just losing a 1 in 60 chance is bad enough, but losing a 1 in 3,600 would be quite something. Either way, we'll see Swags going very slowly through this route. It's by far not impossible to beat the game with this Nidoran, but he's going to need to drag up some really old strats. And buy a lot more healing items and X items to boost his stats. But people ran, before RNG manipulation came around, people ran with Nidorans much worse than this one. Despite having 3 stats all at 0, they were still much worse. There are things you can do with 15 speed at least that will make things a little easier. But yeah, he is going to have a rough time of it. JimB threw the short Sky Rattata, which is one of the more dangerous Pokemon in early game. Can easily kill you with critical hits, which are fairly likely because it has quite a high base speed stat for a unevolved Pokemon. And the Rat miss off Ekans, so all good there as well. Clean short Sky. Considering that he had almost a 14-minute proc time, getting out of short Sky before 17 minutes is very respectable. Swags beats the first bug catcher after losing a couple of turns to his bad stats. The most brutal fight for him, well, short Sky can be brutal because you have such bad defenses, but the most brutal fight for him will be the one after short Sky, most likely. Because killing the Cocoon Pokemon that use Harden with this 0 attack Nidoran can take a long time. Swag's electing to reorganize his inventory since he knows he's going to need those potions. That Tail Whip fail is very important with bad stats, because if you have bad stats then Rattata can just straight up 2-hit you after a Tail Whip. But Swags gets about the best Rattata he could hope for with his 0 attack and 0 defense. And he should have a slightly easier time against Ekans since he still outspeeds it, although he might fail to 2-shot after the Leer. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, gets the critical straight up, so almost certainly missing the 2-shot range. Well, only just barely misses it though. Oddly enough, in Gen 1 early on in the game, when you critical it does less damage. At least after you Leer, since it ignores the defense drop from the Leer. And the critical hit damage formula in Gen 1 is wonky as well. So the crit was the only reason that he didn't get the 2-shot really. But he escapes without a wrap anyway, so it's perfectly fine. We'll have to see what this fight holds in store for him. Now because he does have 15 speed, he's sort of okay, but at the same time he's already been strength shot twice, so he is slower than Kakuna. Meaning that this could be a very painful Kakuna with 0 attack. Gotta hope for a critical hit here. JimB is through route 3. Apart from the small matter of catching a flyer. Swags does get a critical hit on the 3rd hit, so doesn't actually lose any turns. He might fail to 2-shot this Caterpie, though it is fairly likely that he does get it. No, actually he got 2 string shots, so his attack is boosted by quite a bit, so Yeah, I guess he was always going to get that. The Metapod here could be trouble though. Again, he really wants a critical, since he's slower than Metapod with horrible attack. Okay, good critical. Should be a free shot now. Maybe even a 2-shot, but probably a free shot. Gets rescued by critical hits there. With awful luck on string shots. JimB gets the worst flyer, the level 7 Pidgey, which dies to a horn attack most of the time, but most of the time when you tackle it, it won't become a 100% catch rate, so it is the worst flyer to encounter, but this time he did quite a bit of damage with his tackle, and it looked like it would have been 100% to catch with the Pokeball. Swag's probably going to miss the 2-shot on this Caterpie, which is considerably more likely than the level 9 one to miss. Misses it by quite a long shot in the end. Nice string shot fail though, meaning that he is still going to be faster than the Metapod. Should be good with 4 horn attacks, even with 0 attack, since he got 1 string shot to boost his attack. Jim, 0 encounters before the Nerd and Mount Moon. Been on a really good pace ever since the 14-minute rock. I think he got a sub 7 route 3, which is really nice. Swags through route 3 with perhaps far less difficulty than you would expect for a 0 attack Nidoran to have, but still dropping considerable amounts of time to JimB. JimB with a perfectly standard Nerd fight so far. Gets the Screech hit, so should be a 2-shot here. He got a decent first roll. The Screech hit of course boosts his attack again, meaning that despite him doing under half with the first horn attack, he was fairly confident of getting the 2-shot. Swags gets his own Pidgey. Going to be entering Mount Moon around a minute and a half after Jim does. Going to be dropping quite a bit more time later on to his bad stats, but really good route 3 for 0 attack. He's carried himself well ever since he got the horrible realization that he is using the False God, and had a bit of help from critical hits along the way, but it seems only fair if he actually got the 1 in 60 to get the bad Nidoran. Does start Mount Moon with an immediate encounter though. He's going to be killing more encounters in Mount Moon to get experience than Jim will, or he will place a greater importance on it anyway. JimB hasn't tried to kill anything so far, but Swags definitely wants extra experience in Mount Moon to make Nugget Bridge a little easier with bad stats. So you'll probably see him go out of his way to 2-shot some wild encounters. Probably not a level 9 though, that's a little too far to kill with a level 14 Nidoran. He should either kill or catch this though, early Paris. Okay, so he's gone for Horn Attack, which means he's probably going to catch it. This protects him in case when he does the manipulation for the Nidoran, he fails the YOLO ball on that. And he does get it first ball, so works out. He will probably opt to kill the manipulated Paris later on in this case. JimB actually just starting his RNG manipulation, the standard post-less manipulation used by people newer to the game. By far the easiest Mount Moon manipulation to execute. The other Mount Moon manipulations can actually be rather tricky to execute if you're just getting used to the game. So anyone who hasn't run the game much will almost certainly be doing this one. Swags probably won't feel the impact of his bad stats on this Nerd, though he probably will almost certainly free shot the Voltorb. But that's fine. because it is quite likely to free shot even with good stats. Jim looks to be home clear on his RNG manipulation. Encounters the Paris at the very least. We'll see if he gets the YOLO ball or if he opts to not try. That looks a little too slow for YOLO ball, and he's not trying here. He's just going to horn attack it. Okay, it does not critical, so it's got a fairly likely chance of getting one of his free balls. Perhaps around 80% per ball. And gets in first ball, so Jim is in the clear. Swags, of course, doesn't have to catch his Paris when he gets there. He'll kill it. Which is not frame perfect at all. But Jim, on a slightly more standard path, is now has his Paris in his position and he's evolving to Nidoking to begin the last couple of fights in Mount Moon. Swag's getting a few encounters between the Nerd and the Lass. Nothing all too appealing to kill at this point though. Plus, given that he is almost certainly going to be killing a Paris after the RNG manipulation, he probably thinks that he might have enough experience already. So he'll head into this Lass, where the Oddish is going to take an extra turn compared to Jim. With this bad attack, unless you critical like that, you're pretty much never going to get the 2-shot, but the critical compensates again, and doesn't lose a turn there. Though if he criticals the Bellsprout, it probably won't kill. Does not critical. Has a very slight chance of not getting the 2-shot on this as well. Unlikely though, and critical second turn anyway, so what am I saying? He's just going to critical every time he needs it apparently. And I'm sure Speed Gaming appreciates your 36 bits, Crazy Berserker. I'll just do my best on commentary here. JimB gets his Horn Attack disabled, which will probably lose some turns, but hasn't lost too many turns yet, because he criticaled the Grimer with Tackle when he would have just killed with a non-critical Horn Attack. Again, criticals with Tackle on the Voltorb as well. Both runners getting amazing luck with crits when they need them so far, to not lose time. But Horn Attack is still disabled, so he'll probably lose a turn, at least one turn on the Coughing. Another critical, but that one actually does less damage than a Horn Attack would. Another critical! That is 4 criticals and 5 attacks, and Horn Attack is undisabled now, so he can just finish it off. Swags gets the in-game timer on the RNG manipulation, meaning that he won't get the Paris guaranteed at the end, but given that he already has caught a Paris, it's not a huge deal, so he's just going to carry on without manipulation. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was watching Jim's screen, I didn't actually see exactly what happened to Swags. It's not a huge deal though, as I was saying. Though he would have liked to have the Paris encounters to kill, for sure, but as it is, he's just going to opt to kill this level 9 Zubat. Whereas JimB has run into a level 12 Paris and is going to kill that as well. He already had his Moon experience, but now he has a little more. And JimB getting kind of brutalized by encounters, including another Paris. I'm not sure if he'll bother killing this one. Shall we see? He does, okay. I'm not sure what having this much extra experience will do for you. But he actually has way more experience than Swags does right now. Which seems a little lopsided, considering that Swags is the one that actually needs it. Either way, Jim is out of Moon now, with a time of around 29 minutes, perfectly acceptable for a race. Perfectly acceptable again, given that he, again, exited Brock at around 14 minutes. And also killed a bunch of Parises in Mount Moon, apparently. So he should be set for a rather smooth Nugget Bridge, although Sand Attack can still happen, of course. There's no stopping Sand Attack if the Pidgeys and Pidgeotto are in the mood. But in terms of damage range, he should be well set. Swags will probably lose only a single turn in Mount Moon to his bad attack now, although given that JimB got disabled and did actually lose a turn on the Coughing, after not, like, miraculously not losing turns on Grimer and Voltorb, it might just be a wash with the luck that JimB got. Though a Horn attack disable for Swags is going to be a bit more devastating than JimB in all likelihood, unless Swags can replicate whatever was going on with JimB's criticals there. He's also a little low on Horn attacks, but still has a perfectly fine amount actually. Gets disabled, but it's on Poison Sting, which will... Okay, I didn't know you could miss the 2-shot on the Grimer, but apparently you can, so there's that. But yeah, he got Poison Sting disabled, which is a shame because he would have liked to use it to finish off that Grimer. Does miss the tackle, which will set him back one turn. JimB through Pidgeotto with, I think that was actually a 2-shot. Yeah, at level 18, if you get high rolls on your Horn attacks, you can 2-shot the Pidgeotto. And he has so much extra experience that he's level 19 for Rattata, which I think might give you a 1 in 39 chance to kill it. Does not though. It in fact lives on 1 HP. Unlucky. And then Bulbasaur should be a much more likely 2-shot with Horn attack at 19 and it is at 18, but it's still not quite guaranteed. But Jim is not going to demonstrate that. He gets the critical second turn to make sure that it dies. Swags gets a Paras on the way out, which he will probably be quite grateful for. Although he is already level 18, so maybe he doesn't need it, and he decides that he doesn't need it. I guess I must have missed him killing enough encounters to get level 18 already. JimB's extra experience isn't going to have any significant impact, despite how many Parases he killed. He should still be using his candies at roughly the same time if he just got standard Moon experience. But he might get the odd extra level here and now. They just probably won't be significant levels. Does not critical the Caterpie, so 2-shot here. But you expect a 2-shot unless you have Mega Punch. Which neither of these runners do because there isn't really a beginner friendly manip to get Mega Punch. It's just... Mount Moon is a weird place, and it's just not practical for there to be a big beginner friendly RNG manipulation that gets Mega Punch really. I think I saw JimB leveling up to 20 for this Pidgey, yes, so he does have a damage range to kill this. And I think it's a fairly good one with 15 attack. But not quite guaranteed. Either way, he gets it, so saves the turn there at least. Making you act some of the time from killing all those Parases. And criticals the Nidoran, which might not be guaranteed without level 20 either, so... Overall, amazing last fight. Too bad he got quick attacks, so he actually did have an enemy turn go against him. There's a Swags entering in Rival. He might fail to 3-shot Pidgeotto, even with level 18, because of his 0 attack. Fairly bad first roll, decent second roll, and average third roll leads to living on 1. He will opt to switch out since he got Sand Attack, and does not want to deal with that with bad stats. JimB, while I was not watching, got critical on the Ekans to secure that 1-shot, but it's not level 21 before the last, so he doesn't get super early fresh, which is only really practical to get if you fight the Moon Hiker. He might get level 21 for the Nidoran female though, which doesn't help at all, but it's just worth noting. He can't kill the second Pidgey with the 2 extra levels, but he does get to... Yeah, okay, so it's level 21 for the Nidoran female, which shouldn't have any significant impact. But you know that he can use his candy straight after this. Too bad you can't candy in the middle of a battle. Looks like Swags is fine with his rival fight, apart from that unfortunate last turn sand and missed damage range. So a bad rival, but not one where he was in any danger, since he opted for the safe play of switching out. And his Nugget Bridge will really depend on how the Pidgey fights go. He can get trolled by the Ekans and the Zubat. The Zubat is the main kind of added range with his bad attack, since it's guaranteed to die to Horn Attack with the perfect Nidoran. But otherwise, he will kill the Rattata in one hit. He won't kill the Ekans, but even the perfect Nidoran can fail to kill the Ekans quite often. Failing to kill the Weedle by that much is, again, another sign of bad attack, but it's not guaranteed to kill even with the perfect, so yeah. He doesn't have much guaranteed time loss on Nugget Bridge. It's just that he can lose chunks of time here and there, where the same luck would have killed with the perfect one. That is a very nice critical on the Pidgey, since it didn't use quick attack, so it was possible that he was going to get sand attacked. Does not critical to Nidoran, but I don't think it would have necessarily killed anyway. And clean 2-shot, doesn't get growl. If you get growled on the Nidorans with bad attack, you can fail to 2-shot them, whereas it will normally still kill with good attack. So this fight here could be the one that actually trolls him because of his stats. Rattata is guaranteed, just barely, because he's level 20. But then Ekans pretty much will never die without a critical, and Zubat will only have a very small chance to die. Gets the critical on the Ekans, that's very good. No wrap here, but this is probably the one you want to crit more, since Zubat still has Supersonic, of course. Okay, he gets Supersonic. He can afford to stay in for now, and should have probably Poison Stinged, but tackles and hits, and he's fine. Jim went for Horn Attack on Machop to preserve his extra Moon XP. Of course, he's lost the effect of the extra 2 Parises now, but his standard Moon experience is preserved by not having to switch out on the hiker. And Horn Attacking Machop is one of the safest ways to guarantee, or to give yourself a much higher chance of not having to switch out. He did get Red Bar out of that fight, because he got hit by Machop and presumably by... Sorry, he got hit by Machop and presumably at least once by Geodude, but he's out now at level 24. Swags went through the second stand attack fight with... Again, it looked perfectly fine to me. So he gets to learn Fresh now. And for the time being, he's escaped the damage ranges. You can just YOLO confusion hits if you want. It really depends on the value you place on having your Moon experience kept. Because there's no real way to get around having to YOLO multiple confusion hits if you get really bad luck. Like, Horn Attacking is a perfectly reasonable play in his circumstances, if he places a high value on that Moon experience. Swags might have trouble on the hiker, since I don't think Fresh will kill the Machop, but he might not go for it to begin with. JimB gets a last glimpse of Red Bar here, getting Quick Attack from the Pidgey, getting Skip only the single Oddish Cry, unless he decides to try and carry the Red Bar into Goldeen as well. The unfortunate thing about having Red Bar on Goldeen is that if it uses Supersonic and hits, then you still have to attack with Fresh the second turn, and if you hit yourself then he's probably going to die. Though I think he lives one hit at 14, but he wouldn't then also live a peck after that. So he probably will just opt to heal before he goes into Goldeen. Taking 14 health into Goldeen would not be an awful play for an attempt though. It's pretty unlikely to get supersonic hit. And then also hit yourself, and also get pecked so that you actually die. Swags is healing up before Hiker realizes that this fight could definitely be a threat with his bad stats. Exarion opted not to join this tournament because he decided that he was only going to join if certain other people joined as well, and they didn't. So Swags joins Jim in horn attacking the Machop, although he had a much better reason to. His moon experience is way more important, and he's also wouldn't be guaranteed to kill the Machop with Thrash anyway. Gets lucky enough to crit the Geodude on the final turn, so doesn't have to lose that moon experience. So he's in the clear for now as well. Until Misty, he's fine. His bad attack doesn't matter at all. But he will have trouble on Misty for sure. Speaking of Misty, Jim's about to enter. He opted to potion 3 times before Misty, which is a little on the conservative side. And also kind of strange because he's not even guaranteed to survive a bubble being critical from this health, given that he got Peck. But he's still about 90% to win the fight, so should be fine. Saves before it anyway. And Thrash away. Let's see how it goes. Critical will star you, unnecessary. Star me, that's a pretty average roll. That is Bubble Beam non-critical, but gets the speed 4. So in the end, he ends up with good red bar, although he probably won't keep it for very long. In the end, the third potion that I called unnecessary actually did end up saving him because of the speed 4. It's just that usually you don't play around getting the speed 4. But in the end, he's through with 7 health. He can keep this through the next fight against the Dig Rocket with no crazy risk apart from Gen 1 missing. But he'll heal it afterwards, I assume. He does have an option to also take the 7 health into one of the 2 fights on the next route. The fight with the Eradicate, and that's a sensible risk to make in an attempt, but again probably not something that you do in a race. Because critical quick attack from that Eradicate will still kill him. Swag's getting both the Elixir and the Ether. I'm not sure if that's his route or just him anticipating problems with his bad stats later. Possibly a bit of both. Okay, so JimB's at 11 health, so he would survive some critical quick attacks from Eradicate. Still probably not going to risk it though. I'd imagine he'll just potion up, yeah, he's potioning up right now. He'll teach Bubble Beam since this is a convenient menu to do it in. Or not, okay, he'll just forget and do it later, that's also fine. But usually you would teach Bubble Beam there. And he'll just head straight into the Pidgey fight instead. The Pidgey fight is a battle with 3 level 16 Pidgeys that all have quick attack. And they can do 5 each, so if he was to get quick attack by all 3 he would die, even if none of them criticaled. From 11 health. But there is a play where you fight the second trainer first and that fight only has to Eradicate. But I think I'll turn my attention to Swags for now, because he's going to be going into his understated Misty fight. 0 attack Misty is, bad, but not awful when you outspeed her. He probably won't two-shot the Starmie with Thrash, but because he's going to be level 25 for Staryu, he will at least one-shot that. Plus the fact that he's at full health means he's reasonably likely to survive 2 attacks. and he keeps his full health because Goldie misses that supersonic. Yeah, chill, you can save a tiny bit of time by teaching Bubble Beam and potioning inside the underground instead of outside on the overworld. It's not something that a new runner is going to have in their mindset though. JimB has already been quick attacked a couple of times, so looks like that heal was pretty justified. Would have survived on one if he hadn't healed though. But he does still have the Eradicate to fight. Yeah, so because he's level 25 specifically for the Staryu, it's still guaranteed to die even with 0 attack. If he had let some of his experience be dropped or split, then he would have been 24 and it would have been a bad damage range. Really good roll on the first Thrash and X defend and critical, so damageless Starmie with 0 attack. How about that? That is... I mean, I guess it's not all that unlikely because the 0 attack Nidoran still has the same critical hit rate, but still really nice because Misty with 0 attack is not a nice proposition. But yeah, Sinstar actually has a point in the chat. You want to potion as late as possible so that if you get any encounters on the Route 6 grass, then you have red bar for them, which one encounter in red bar saves more time than the lag difference would. And you are not all that likely to get an encounter, but I'd say probably close to 50% to get one. Since you have to take, what, 8 tiles of grass? JimB does opt to eventually teach Bubble Beam before the fight, although he menus at a bit of an odd spot to do so. But with his lead and with actually having the perfect Nidoran, it's perfectly fine in this circumstance. Swags will not be going for Fly Split Red Bar just as well because there are way more things that can kill him with his bad stats. He's nowhere near Red Bar, not that you would even really think of Red Bar with 0 attack and 0 special. So his full health will actually probably be kind of a relief. Swags will probably just pick up the second nugget in the underground between Lavender Town and Celadon City and just grab more of everything. I don't remember the exact X items you want to have with bad stats, but there are a few extra places you want to X speed, for example. Apologies for the cutout in commentary, but really back now. Swags has taken quite a lot of damage from these two fights. He does also have a damage range on that Predicate, but it goes down this time. It's a fairly favourable damage range anyway. JimB through the rival with no issue either. Swags still has plenty of health though. He shouldn't have any need to heal anytime soon. And Swags does opt to buy early super potions, probably just in case he does get a few adverse 0 attack or 0 special damage ranges against him. And he would, he's not going to sell the nugget, which, he might, okay he does, but I wouldn't be surprised if he still picks up the second nugget, but he was certainly thinking about not selling it there. Yeah. I haven't mentioned qualification since the 0 attack thing happened. Jim is still, like, in with a small chance of getting the time he needs. Like, with the pace that he's on, if he was a more experienced runner, he could certainly still get the time. It might not be all that likely in these circumstances. He's probably just playing for the win at this point. But it's possible. I won't say it's impossible until I really think it is impossible. Does not get IGT'd on cans, which is either a 3 in 60 chance or a 2 in 60 chance for the can manipulation not to work, depending on whether you use the slightly harder one or not. So he's into Surge. I didn't see what his health was coming out of Arrival because I was a little distracted. 26, so safe from Sonic Boom. Horn Attack turn 1 to try and draw out said Sonic Boom. Gets a really high roll. Might be the extra stat experience from killing all those Parises. Swag shouldn't have any difficulty on this rival. There is another damage range on Eradicate Fresh if he goes for that, but he's also almost certainly not going to anyway. And JimB does not take damage, so no Fly Split Red Bar for him. Which makes it harder for him to get a good time, but is okay in the context of not dying. With 26 health, you'll find it very hard to die with the perfect Nidoran on Fly Split. Without a Gen 1 miss, anyway. But he might... I don't know. I don't know if he's watching the stream and if he knows that Swags has the 0 attack Nidoran. He might decide to go for it at this point. If there was ever a point to go for it, this would be it. Although he would need to play like out of his mind. And also take some risks, I imagine. If he knows about 0 attack, then there's a chance that he makes the call to go for Fly Split Red Bar, which would be a sign that he would be considering trying to get the sub 156. But I know that his mindset coming into this race was just to win this race, so I still don't see it as all that likely. Swags is still playing really well for 0 attack, to emphasize that. There was a race a couple of days ago where another runner got the same situation and lost about 20 minutes to it. And so far Swags I think has only lost around 5, with Swags not being as good of a runner as that other runner to begin with. He has been helped a lot by criticals and generally favourable RNG for having the 0 attack Nidoran, but he's still playing it really, really well. And while I'm sure he's beating himself up over getting the 0 attack Nidoran to begin with, he can be pretty proud of how he's done ever since then. And he's only about 3 or 4 minutes behind Jim at this point. So perhaps Jim can't quite put the foot on the gas just yet in terms of taking risks. There is a chance that if he plays too risky, then he can have a long enough death to let Swags back in. And with 0 attack mattering less and less as the game goes on, it is not something that he particularly wants to try. If his first priority is winning this race. And hello, Ghostmink. And yeah, he also saved before this fight, which definitely suggests he's still playing on the safe side of things. Considering that he won't kill himself with a single hit in Confusion, and he still has multiple Slave Slides to switch out to. Does not hit himself in Confusion anyway. It might have been ideal for him to do it once, so that he had at least the option of trying to keep Red Bar presented to him, but doesn't happen. Swags either messes up the manipulation or gets another in-game time of 0, which is really rough, if it is one. We'll see. Well, he's going to retry from scratch and see what happens. It's pretty hard to mess up the cans minute, but it is possible, so... we'll see what happens. Okay, it looks like he knows that he got in-game timed, and when you get in-game timed on the cans minute, the second can is always in the top left instead of the one that you normally check, so... yeah, it looks like he knows that he didn't stuff it up, and he got in-game timed, he just does the backup and only loses about 20 seconds. Unfortunate, but... again, makes the right play. And is rewarded by only losing a tiny bit of time instead of a lot of time. Now, I would have taken a 56-minute surge with a 0 attack Nidoran back in the day, I know that much. I wouldn't have been particularly happy with it, but I would have definitely taken it. So I think he will too. Yeah, most of the time, the thing about Racing Red now is that most of the time you will get that perfect Nidoran. There's only very small chance that you don't. Unfortunately, Swags has been victim to it today. And most likely taken completely out of the race because of that. And there were the dark days where we didn't always outspeed Misty. Like, that was a thing for a very long time, where the vast majority of runs would not outspeed Misty. And have to deal with Starmie always getting at least 2 turns. Jim does not opt for any of the options to get Red Bar at the start of Rock Tunnel. And you'd imagine he'll also still save for the level... No, he won't save. What am I talking about? He's level 30 for it, so he has no need to save. This is a guaranteed kill. It won't be for Swags, due to his 0 attack. Despite him being level 30 for Oddish, it won't be a guaranteed kill there, unfortunately, but it is still a damage range at least. At level 29, the Oddish never dies if you have this bad attack. Jim just playing it safe through Rock Tunnel, taking a little bit of extra time and a couple of extra steps to make sure he doesn't hit any trainers. Looks clean enough though, honestly, apart from the extra step up on the floor after the last, which a lot of people make a lot of the time. Swag's going to be joining him in the Rock Tunnel shortly, although Jim might just about make it out before Swags makes it in. First up is the 4-turn Thrash. 4-turn Thrash isn't any more dangerous with bad attack than it is with good, but he's still going to save because he has to go for it. It looks like JimB has safely dodged all the optionals in Rock Tunnel. Swag's going for his first attempt at a 4-turn Thrash here. Gets it, so all good there. Now, a couple of damage ranges for him are coming up. Apart from the Oddish, there's a couple more. Although, I'll wait for him to actually get into Rock Tunnel. It's also possible he doesn't know that one of these ranges exists, although unlikely, because they were communicated to runners back before manipulation was a thing, and Swags has run the game without manipulation before. Swags plays around missing the Venonat range with his bad attack, and does miss it, so good on him, making the informed play. But now he's got a couple of damage ranges at the start of Rock Tunnel. First up, we get to a nasty little damage range on the Cubone with Bubble Beam, which only Zero Special has a damage range there. I don't know if he knows about it. He might save for Fortified if he does. He is saving, so unfortunately he saves after he uses a Repel. So if he reloads the save, he actually just plain up loses that Repel. But he does know that this fight is dangerous with Zero Special at least. So the Cubone is not a guaranteed kill. It's fairly likely still, given that one extra special DV guarantees it, but it's not guaranteed. Gets it this time. This Slowpoke here, the level 23 one, is fine. Just barely guaranteed. But then the level 25 Slowpoke is also a damage range. And that should do it for Rock Tunnel. If he can make it past that, he won't have any extra ranges. Well, there is the Oddish as well. But that one is a range if you're 15 attack and not level 30. So it's less significant. Don't think he has a range on the Bulbasaur with level 30, even with bad attack. Okay, misses damage range on the Slowpoke, gets paralysis, does not get fully paralyzed. Not sure if this kills, doesn't. Okay, good. Okay, so he's gonna heal before Oddish, almost guaranteed, I'd say. Might even opt to use one of those free super potions he bought earlier. With the bad stats. Let's see. No, just decides to save. I guess he's gonna try and hold red bar because he knows he's behind. It's perfectly fine to try and hold red bar here because there are no guaranteed non-kills, there are only damage ranges. He can kill this Oddish in one hit. He can kill the Bulbasaur in one hit. And later on he can kill the Growlithe in one hit. They're all perfectly reasonable to kill. And he does in fact get the Oddish, which I think is probably the hardest one. So, provided he doesn't input the wrong move, this is not all that bad of a play. Though he is dead to a Pidgey quick attack from 5 HP, and I hope he knows that. Yeah, doesn't heal yet, so he might heal after the Hiker, keep the red bar through the Geodudes, which are easy kills, and then cash in on as much free time safe as he can, and then heal out when there's actually danger. There isn't danger on Geodude unless you miss input or Gen 1 miss. Swags... not sure. He might have just spoiled something in the chat. Gen 1 misses Geodude and dies. Gets criticaled by Tackle as well. Oh dear. Okay. That one is brutal. That is 1 and 256 to miss, and then Geodude has to pick an attacking move, which is not all that likely. And it also has to crit. Well, it didn't have to critical. The Tackle would have killed on its own, but it's still very, very unlikely to happen. Like, that could have happened perfectly. That could have easily happened to Jim as well. Jim had more health, so it would have been less likely for him to die, but he could have had that happen just as easily as Swags could. That was not anything to do with his bad Nidoran. Swags is not actually down a repel now because he made it far enough in in Rock Tunnel. He can just repel after this fight. It's unfortunate that he managed to get an encounter between his save point and the trainer battle though. Jim with perfectly acceptable end of fly split while we were focusing on Swags' Rock Tunnel range. Apocalypse. He didn't end up missing any of the ranges apart from that Slowpoke, although, yeah, he failed to kill the Bulbasaur on the second attempt, but it didn't cost him any significant time. Jim is in the rival with a lot of health, no risk at all here. Unless he gets his own Gen 1 miss to match Swags' Gen 1 miss. Yeah, Jim is very unlikely to change any seeding at this point. He would have to start playing super risky and also play like a top runner to make this into... to make it into the brackets from this point. And he has slightly more of an opportunity to do it now because of Swags' extra death, but before that death, he was still close enough to Swags that he couldn't really afford to risk it if he cares more about winning the race. Swags, I think, has gone into the Pidgey with the chances to the quick attack. Well, no, I think he levels up before it actually, so he might be okay. Yeah, he levels up. My mistake. So he should be good unless it critical its quick attack, and it has to pick it to begin with, which is either 1 in 4 or 1 in 3. It does pick it, does not critical. He takes an extra point of damage because of his bad defense, but I knew he would probably still be safe. Now he is dead to Vulpix's quick attack now, and that one is unconditional. So he might opt to heal before the Gambler, or he might just risk it at this point. He decides to use the Repel as a prompt to heal, but he does only go for a regular potion instead of super potion. Jim has a respectable time of around 2:01, but calling him a top runner with a time not below sub 2 would be kind of facetious. I'm sure he could get a much better time if he practiced a lot, because I think his 2:01 had quite a lot of well, not even mistakes, just like unfortunate RNG in it, because he only really plays the game for races and like preparing for races. If he put in more time to the game, he could definitely get a good time, but I don't think he's put in enough time to feasibly have a chance at getting the 156 from here. But again, while I was worrying about Swags, he made it through the first 2 Ghastlies, which are the ones that are actual threats, with apparently no trouble. So, for now, since Swags has made it past the worst of the damage ranges, I'll turn my attention back to Jim and see what he does. He doesn't really have any opportunity to take any risks for at least a while longer. But he can at least lose a few turns if he gets unlucky. Meanwhile, Swags did not pick up the second nugget, so I guess he must have actual... Sorry, he must have actual routing for 0 attack, which is not a surprise since he ran the game before manipulation was a thing. And you can get enough X items with 0 attack and good routing. But I am a little... I guess I'm still a little surprised he didn't get the nugget for safety. He does not get blocked by the lady despite making the wrong movement choice there. So I'll see. Keep a good eye on what he's going to buy. let me put it this way. If Jim turns this pace into a run which qualifies him for the bracket stage, which requires a 156 or better, then he would be playing like a top runner for the rest of the race. At least in my view. Sub 2 is still on the cards without that necessarily happening. Like, if he just plays pretty well, then he might still sub 2. But he needs quite a bit better than sub 2 to qualify. Okay. Swags gets 1 extra X speed compared to normal, I think. Opts to spend nearly all of his money. He should be fine. I will be happy for Jim if he does get sub 2 in this race, but it's just, yeah, it's just the level of play he would need to get the sub 156.18, which I think is beyond him at this point. He'll come out with a just below 112 Pokeflute split, which is sub-2able if nothing too badly goes wrong. But even, I think, yeah, even for a top runner, you would need to play quite risky to turn a 112 Pokeflute into a 156 or better. Or at least play really solidly and not die at all, if you don't take risks. JimB criticals Eradicate, which removes any chance of it living the fresh. It's about a 93% chance for it to die overall, including the chance to critical. So maybe about 4 and 5 to die to a non-crit. Swag's entering Pokemon Tower almost right as Jim leaves it. He's saving or just healing? Just healing. Just does decide to use a Super Potion this time though. I'm not sure if he knows if there's any risk here. There shouldn't be, despite his bad stats, but he might not entirely know what could happen in this fight, and he might also just be healing preemptively for the Ghastlies coming up. See, Jim using the Pokemon Center now. Not entirely, I don't exactly remember what strats Jim uses, but what he does here will point us in the right direction. Okay, he's at least going for early Sylph, which would suggest late Earthquake strats. Swags uses more outdated strats, as it were, which is good for him because they will help him get through the game with his zero attack, with current strats not really being routed around having zero attack. But at the same time it means that he will lose. He would, if he had the perfect Nidoran, he would be losing a bit of time to slightly less efficient play. Jim going into Arbok without Earthquakes, so certainly late Earthquake strats, the more recent strats for this game, routed out by the likes of Exarion and Worcester and a few other community runners in the last few weeks / months at this point. Thrashes the Arbok, gets the 2-shot, which is the most safe play you can do in a race against that Arbok without Earthquake. Does not get paralyzed, so he keeps his full restore. Swags is on the fight with the first Ghastlies. He's still got pretty much all the health he had going in, so I assume that he didn't miss, or if he did miss, then it was inconsequential. JimB is now heading for Rival. He took a decent amount of damage from Arbok, which he actually wants to take. Whereas there is no real benefit to Swags taking damage at this point. He's about to step on the heal pad anyways and get restored back to full health. JimB needs to take about 40 to 50 total damage over the next about 10 minutes of fight so that when it comes time to have Wheezing use self-destruct you actually die to it. He's taken about maybe half of what he wants to take so far, or slightly over half. But Pidgeot hasn't played nice just yet, and indeed 0 damage Pidgeot, so he still needs to take more damage from somewhere else. Okay, I tuned out for a little bit while Jim was just using Horn Drill to get through the rival with no risk and no possible events happening. Swags clears out the final couple of Ghastlies with no issue either. Jim opts to Elixir before the fight. Sometimes when you still need to take damage, you'll opt to use Elixir on this next fight so that one of the Pokemon can hit you. But yeah, Cubone isn't kind, doesn't pull out its Bone Club, and so Jim is still searching for damage from somewhere else. Probably too risky to try and get it on this Drowsy, not to mention it would lose at least one turn, so just sweeps away the Drowsy as well. Swags finally runs into another damage range, this time on the Golbat. His special being 0 means that Thunderbolt is basically guaranteed to not kill, so goes for Rock Slide instead, which is still a damage range but a better one. Misses it but not punished with any kind of confusion or anything. And these last two fights should go relatively the same as Jim's, apart from the chance to kill the Raticate being much lower. So he'll almost certainly set up so that he has 2 turns to kill the Raticate with his Thrash. Whereas with the good Nidoran, it's a reasonable play to expect that Thrash will only take 1 turn to kill it. Jim again fails to take damage, down to only a couple more places that he can... Or down to really only one more place that he can realistically take damage before the Wheezing now. So he might have to pull out his stall strats on the Hypno. So Swags, we'll see, he should Thunderbolt this, he does, so now he has 2 turns of Thrash on the Raticate guaranteed, which is the expected play. He still can one-shot this even without a critical. It's one of the craziest damage ranges in the game, which is possible to get at 0 dB but not guaranteed at 15 dB. And right there we see him get it, so there you go. Sometimes crazy things do happen. Ultimately he only loses about half a second for not risking it though. And he is through. Not that there was any danger of him dying, it's just that he could have lost an extra turn. But you can see just how silly damage ranges can be sometimes. With getting that that damage range even with 0 attack. And people have missed it during the tournament with 15. JimB has his Earthquake TM and his Rare Candy, he's out of here. Because he did Lady Q, where you don't go for Earthquake until after you've cleared out Giovanni, you don't have to fight a Rocket to get it. Which ultimately does save time despite it taking slower movement. Now, Swags might give you the illusion that he's a lot closer to Jim than he really is here, because he's probably going to be going straight to Cycling Road and ultimately to the Safari Zone himself as well, since he's on old strats. So you'll see him chase Jim towards Cycling Road here. Of course, Jim has actually already done the entirety of Silph Co, so has a substantial lead at this point. But for now, we'll see them in relatively the same places, at least for a few more minutes until Swags then has to head off to Silph Co and Jim gets to go straight to Koga's gym, as it were. You probably also see Swags skip the PP up. Usually he would with 15 attack. With 0 he might opt to pick it up instead. Because usually when you get Mansion Candies, like he will, he'll always get the Mansion Candies with his strats, but when you get Mansion Candies with 15 attack, usually you don't have to get the PP up. But I believe that when you have 0 attack, you want to get the PP up and the Mansion Candies. We'll see if he knows where to get it as well. He might not because of being committed to these old strats, but also to having perfect attack. Okay, he's just going to take it slow and check every tile, which won't take him too long. It's just right here, so only loses maybe 10 seconds to not knowing the exact location there. Probably not even that, probably more like 5. And Jim is going to be using that PP up immediately to first off clear it out of his inventory and second off give himself the extra horn drill. He'll be biking around into the Safari Zone, which is the better play if you're not confident in your menus. Swags will be menuing for a few things of his own here. Since he's on older strats, he has the move Ice Beam for ice coverage instead of Blizzard, and this is the point where he has to actually teach it. He might also jettison the PP up at this point as well, but he doesn't opt to quite yet. He does need to jettison that PP up before he tries to get Surf, I think. Jim will head straight for the Safari Zone, probably going to grab the full restore if I'm guessing right, and I am, yeah. That's the second full restore, which makes him pretty much put, like, no chance of having healing item issues in the Elite Four. You'll probably see Swags grab it as well. Just for that off chance that he does get bad luck in the Elite Four. Though his stats don't make a huge difference there. And indeed, goes through the same exact movement and collects the full restore, so now they've both got 2. JimB I think actually still has an extra super potion because Swags used that one in Pokemon Tower. But with 2 full restores and the willingness to play safe and not go for red bar in the Elite Four, it's generally fine. Like, probably no need to have any super potions at all. Or at least not more than 1 or 2. So now JimB will restore his visual lead by heading straight to Koga's gym, instead of having to go to Silph Co. I don't think I saw Swags use PP up, but I might have missed it, so he might get bag full here. Okay, yeah, he gets bag full, so he needs to quickly use that PP up to get out of his inventory. Doesn't realize that though. He's not used to picking up that PP up, you can tell. So he's just going to toss the Pokeballs instead. He'll probably realize this later and then get the Toxic TM for his troubles. Because he will have to jettison an item and no longer have that space full. I mean, he'll have to use the PP up and that'll clear a space that's meant to be full with the Pokeballs. But for now, it's not going to make any huge impact. He's on his own way to Silph now. where he will pick up Earthquake before he fights any of the other trainers, meaning he has to do an extra fight with a Machoke. And now he does realise that he needs to use that PP up, and that he probably should have used it earlier. You might see him pick up another extra optional item in Silph Co. Actually, my bad. He might just be picking up Carbos to fill that item slot. I completely forgot that you actually need that you should be picking up Carbos with bad speed. No, he doesn't have bad speed. Now what am I talking about? I don't know. Ignore everything that I said for the last 10 seconds or so. He will probably pick up an extra item in Silph Co to fill his bag again. But he does not get Carbos because he has 15 DV speed. So he might only pick up the Carbos just because it's the most convenient item to pick up to begin with. But he won't have to use it. Unless he's kind of an autopilot and thinking he has 0 in everything. In which case you might see him use it. I doubt it. So JimB opting to Thunderbolt the Hypno turn 1. It's a little risky to do that because you can get Disable on Earthquake, but in this case he gets the perfect outcome, which is Confusion turn 1, no Confusion, no critical, and 50 or so damage, so he will now die to Weezing Self-Destruct guaranteed. So while JimB has a relatively smooth Koga, we'll see what Swags does with his items here. Doesn't get the Carbos on the first go past it. Yeah, I don't think he should be getting it on the first go past it actually. I think he wants the item slot for Earthquake and then he'll pick up the Carbos to replace it if anything. That's reasonable. But yeah, he has to immediately teach Earthquake now that he's got it, so that he can use it on the Arbok to get the one shot. And grab the rare candy, and possibly the Carbos, or he might just opt to get Toxic. Okay, he does get the Carbos, but he shouldn't be using that. But it appears that he's on autopilot for bad stats, like I said he might be earlier, and just uses the Carbos straight away, so bad outcome. Probably going to be getting Toxic and also using an unnecessary Carbos. It's only a time loss rather than any significant risk. But it is kind of like bad stats autopilot at this point, I imagine. And JimB is out of Koga with about a 127 Koga. At this point, to get the 156, he would need to play absolutely amazing, like I was saying back in the Pokeflute split, but kind of every split that passes compounds that somewhat, since he's just taking it slow and safe to win the race. He's following fairly standard menus, and he's through to go and pick up Strength. Swag's entering Silph Rival. He's got 6 Horn Drills, which means that he can Horn Drill the Alakazam here, which would otherwise be a damage range of Earthquake with his bad attack. Usually he would have only 5 Horn Drills and he would Earthquake the Alakazam instead. But the PP up actually does come in handy here. He opts to X Special. I think that's just like standard strats muscle memory because he doesn't need to. He might even Thunderbolt the Gyarados, though I don't know for sure. But he should have a Horn Drill for the Alakazam because of the PP up. Drills the Gyarados though, so that X Special is entirely unnecessary. Chill Magic bringing up that JimB is behind 201 splits, which should give you an idea of the task he has to try and get a 156 from here. Probably not really on his mind anymore though, without a great start. A good enough start, but not a great start. Swags actually risks the Earthquake on Alakazam, perhaps unknowing that it's a damage range. But gets it is still fairly likely, so not a huge deal. And Horn Drills, Venusaur away, and that's that. No more real risks from his bad stats until... well, not for a long time actually now. I think the next one is Sabrina, which even Jim hasn't reached yet, so... for now, the Zero attack will live on. JimB can certainly still PV, maybe even still sub 2. I'm just skeptical about 156 from here, unless we rang up Pokeguy and made him take the reins for the rest of the race. And even then I think he would struggle to get 156. Yeah. A single death would make it impossible. Either way, that's probably not on JimB's mind anymore. So we should just focus on him hopefully getting a PB and putting in a solid showing for his final race of the tournament. JimB finishing out the mansion as Swags is about to finish up Silph-Co. They could actually have a little sync in Celadon City if Swags was just a little faster up to this point. Though of course it still wouldn't be a true sync. JimB heading off to Erica, which does have some risk involved because of Blizzard's mischance. And there was also an unfortunate 256 miss with Earthquake earlier in the tournament here as well. But not overly risky Jim at all. The two Pokemon that you do use Blizzard on normally are not really threats at all, unless you're stubborn and unwilling to heal if you miss. And this Execute actually can't damage you at all to begin with, so that's a good start. It's just that the Tangela could do really small amounts of damage. Swag's leaving Silph-Co and heading to Ko's gym now. He will be picking up Toxic, almost certainly. Unless I missed him getting the item ball after the card key, which I don't think I did. It's not a huge concern to get Toxic, it's just kind of an indication that you've messed up your inventory management slightly. And so it can be a bit of a mark of shame on runners. I don't think that's anywhere near the most important thing on Swags' mind right now though, with the Zero attack Nidoran. Probably just wants to get through the race at this point. Get possibly sub 210 from this position, which would be impressive, although perhaps a bit tricky. JimB, no problems on Erica, so the expected outcome prevails and we move on to Blaine. Blaine being one of the two fights in the run that you literally cannot lose if you make the correct inputs on it. The other one being Viridian Rival. You cannot Gen 1 this because you use an X accuracy and all the moves that you use are guaranteed to kill, so you just cannot lose this fight without actually misplaying. I mean, there are some other fights that you're guaranteed to not lose if you go into them with enough health, but in terms of the current state of the route, this is one of the two unlosable fights. Because quite often you'll go into those other battles with health low enough that you can die. Swags is using a single rare candy here. This is standard in his route so that he can preserve red bar all the way through Lorelei. Even with Zero attack you still try to die to Weezing self-destruct. Although he is forced into Expeding on Sabrina here, so he's not going to be able to reliably carry his red bar all the way through. Now, he isn't getting to Sabrina for a while yet. He can still carry red bar through Erica and Blaine with absolutely no trouble. despite awful stats. Unfortunately, okay, so it looks like Swags might just decide to not die to the self-destruct here. He isn't in anywhere near the kind of range where the self-destruct will kill him, although, given that he also has 0 defense, there is a small chance that it does. I'm guessing he's just going to wait and see. With 95 health and 0 defense, he's definitely got at least some chance to die, albeit probably quite a small one. Since he'll level up once more before defeating as well and have 98 health and level 41. Or perhaps even 99 health, but I think it's 98. JimB makes it past the questions and goes into his hopefully unlosable fight. Starting off well at least. Doesn't get the super potion, so loses the half turn to having to see another move from Growlithe, which happens to be the super potion at full health, of course. One turn later than you actually want it. But yeah, okay, not going to lose from here. Horn Drill, Horn Drill, Horn Drill, and dead fight. So, unfortunately Swags gets the Thunderbolt paralysis on Weezing, which could slow down getting the self-destruct. But he's also had at least one X attack, so he is guaranteed to die to the self-destruct. And criticals anyway, so none of that was even necessary. What a blast. Pun unintended. See, I guess in the end, not trying to take extra damage paid off for him. But the final mark of shame for that split is that the Toxic turn comes in. Again, probably not anywhere near caring at this point about just getting Toxic. But again, also getting Toxic will fix his inventory for the rest of the game, provided he doesn't try to throw out any more items. Just means he loses a little bit of time up front there. So now he can go off to the mansion, use his free candies and grab another 2, which are 100% necessary with these bad of a stat, with this bad of a stat line. JimB hitting into a fight that you shouldn't be able to lose, but you still can from Gen 1 missing. Swags will have a little bit of a trickier time on it because of his... okay, well, he can... I was wrong earlier, I keep assuming that he has bad speed, just like he apparently is. So, he can die to Sabrina more often than JimB will, but it's only because there's a damage range with Earthquake on the Venomoth. He actually has 15 speed, which means that he doesn't actually have to X-speed. He can only die to the damage range. So we'll see if that happens or not. For now, he's just doing standard menus. Uses 2 extra candies to get up to level 43, which guarantees no encounters in the mansion. And he'll pick up 2 more towards the end of the mansion. JimB not getting trolled by Gen 1 misses on Sabrina, like most people don't, but it does happen from time to time. And he'll head to Giovanni, still on fairly solid pace. Looking like he'll need about a 14-minute Giovanni to the end of the game split to get his 156. I think we can pretty much call that over at this point, since the world record has about a high 14, I think? Possibly even a 15. And the standard is kind of around 16. Either way. Back to JimB hopefully PBing, and Swags hopefully finishing a solid run with 0 attack. So... JimB going to be heading into the black belt fight now, which is one of the most likely fights to kill you when you're playing safe, because you want to keep red bar for it. So everyone will just opt to save before this fight in a race, and take the marginal chance of death, and lose about 20-25 seconds if you do die. But otherwise get to keep red bar through Lorelei with no risk after that, which saves more time than dying once would lose. Does get karate show up, doesn't critical, which is nice, so no time loss there, or at least only marginal time loss. Looks like JimB's stream dropping a few frames, but nothing too massive, you can still see what's going on. Karate Chop is a high crit move, which means that it has a very high chance of criticaling when a Pokemon uses it, but Machoke is so slow that he doesn't have a 100% chance to critical with it. When Machoke uses it, I think it's about 70% critical. So obviously, him using it and it not criticalling is still lucky. JimB still got lucky there, but it wasn't like an extraordinary event, shall we say. So again, JimB going into another fight where he's only dead to Gen 1 misses. And on this fight, it's less likely that they do attack him if he does Gen 1 miss. Meanwhile, Swags, because he's got bad special, is doing Blaine before Erica. Blaine gives you a badge boost for your special stat, which will allow him to clear out Erica without any concern of damage ranges. If you have good special and you pick up the mansion candies, you can just straight up use Ice Beam with no fear of those damage ranges. But going for Blaine first is the safer play on bad special. JimB doesn't Gen 1 miss where it matters. Does miss damage range on Rhydon. Standard. You miss this damage range way too often. It's not nice, but not actually any threat whatsoever because Rhydon cannot damage you. And he's through Giovanni. With time just under 141. Or just under 142 rather. Swags answers the final Blaine Gym question and will head into his own Blaine fight, which I think is also unlosable because he's going to be using exact strats on it, due to his bad attack. When you had good attack on the old route, you didn't exact on this fight, and so you could die to a Gen 1 miss. But that was only in the case where you had such good attack that the Arcanine was guaranteed to die to Earthquake, which is a really hard range to get, if you have anything less than perfect attack really. So he'll just be doing the same kind of no-risk fight that Jim did about 10 minutes ago. And Jim coincidentally hitting into the second unlosable fight against Viridian Rival, where you set up X items on a Pidgeot that's locked into agility against you, because it's apparently super effective. Now, because this Pidgeot is so fast, because of it using agility, you do have to use Blizzard instead of Hornjaw, which is a damage range, but a slightly more favourable one than the Rhydon, and he does get it this time, so business as usual really. And doesn't miss input on the one Pokemon that's the most likely to kill you, being the Gyarados. Should be fine from here. Yeah, he just needs to select Hornjaw on Venusaur and he wins this fight. Swag's taking a slightly odd path to the gym, loses a couple of steps. And JimB through Viridian Rival, so now we'll get to see how good his execution is in Victory Road and whether he'll attempt any swag boulders. But looking very promising for JimB to sub 2, so hopefully his Elite Four goes well so that can happen. Like, if he gets a clean Deathless Elite Four, this is sub 2, almost no question. But by clean I mean without a major Agatha troll. Deathless Elite Four is not all that unlikely in the race, but you can still get trolled by Lance and Agatha and Champion to some extent. Not so much Lorelei and Bruno if you're willing to play safe. Swag's coming up to his Venomoth damage range. I think he might have done something weird here though. I think he's still fine though. Because he has 15 speed, so... Normally, I remember being 47 for Alakazam normally, but because he's got perfect speed, he's still fine at 46. And in fact, Jim, with his 14 speed, did it at 45, so yeah. It's just that under certain circumstances with around, say, 10 DV speed, you want to put off Sabrina until last so that you have 15, so that you have level 47 for the Alakazam. Swags hits the Venomoth damage range, which is equally likely whether he goes to Sabrina second or third. Now he'll be doing Erica third, which is just slightly better for movement, if you could have the speed to do it in this scenario. Because after Erica you fly, and he wants to fly to Viridian City instead of Saffron. We'll see if JimB does any swag boulders, or if he's just going to try and close this out as a PB attempt. And cut the silliness of swag boulders. He might just do one or two just for the sake of it at this point. Nothing really riding on it. He does try. Doesn't succeed. Okay, succeeds that time. One swag boulder in the books. That might be the only one, or he might have another go later on. Sadly, most of the tension of this match has been taken away by the fact that Swag's got that zero attack Nidoran. And that's really why it's been a bit quiet. Plus it being a bit late at night. But there's still some things that are riding on this match, like Swags' pride for one, and JimB trying to get a personal best of under 2 hours. But as a race, it is very, very unlikely that this becomes competitive again. JimB has an almost perfect Nidoran and Swags has an almost imperfect Nidoran. Or, like, almost the opposite of perfect Nidoran. But Swags, again, playing really well for the Nidoran he has. Probably not sub 210, although it might still be. Yeah, it could well still be sub 210, which for zero attack TV is good enough. JimB with at least one more swag boulder I saw there, but I think he also failed one. So he's still about even on the success and failed swag boulders up to this point. There's one more last place where you can get a bunch of swag boulders in a row. But yeah, I guess he's pretty chill at this point. Knows he can't get 156, knows he's probably going to win the race, and that also that swag boulders won't cost him his sub 2, so why not go for them at this point? Last Super Repel, get back on the bike, use Strength. Don't forget to use Strength. I don't think he forgot though. Just decided to do it slightly later. Meanwhile, Swags will have to deal with Black Belt himself. I don't know what he's going to do against Black Belt in this scenario. I'm sure that he has a route for it, but I don't know exactly what that route will be. He does still have to save, since he's also in red bar. JimB with a couple more swag boulders to finish things off. Cool as you like. Does not get the full Restore of Shame at the end of Victory Road. He already has 2, so there's no reason to. He might buy them, since the beginner guide does tell you to buy them, but at the same time he has 2, so it would be kind of questionable to do so. It might only tell you to buy them if you have less than 2 actually. Taking his time on the deposit menu to make sure he doesn't deposit Nidoking, like I did in one of my races. Not the biggest mistake you can make, but still kind of funny if it happens. Swags, no problem on Black Belt. Looks like he was able to exact drill with the way his PP route worked out. Which is fair enough, because you're not going to be killing those Machokes with anything else when you have 0 attack and 0 special. He's gonna elixir up so that he has PP for Giovanni. JimB doing a standard Lorelei. You can switch in a flyer on turn 1 or have the flyer come out as the lead, which are both about the same speed. And if you do that, then Dugong is guaranteed to use rest on the first turn that Nidoran is back in, so that you can win this fight with only very small risk. That risk being if it Gen 1 misses your flyer, and that kind of uses up the safety turn. So then you're only 50-50 to get the move you need to win the fight. But yeah, no Gen 1. We have seen the Gen 1 miss on the flyer once in the tournament, but it was luckily on a race where the winner was already decided. It hasn't happened in a high stakes race yet. And it did not happen today. So now JimB is significantly ahead of PB at least. Definitely on sub 2 pace. Could even perhaps take a Lance Def here and still get a sub 2. Doesn't want that to happen, of course. And he's going to opt to full restore before Bruno because he knows that he's comfortable at this point. And he doesn't want to die to slam critical from Onyx, which is about the only thing that he could have died to with his health as it was. He probably would have done this full restore before Agatha instead of Bruno if he was in slightly more danger of missing the sub 2, but he has a lot of leeway to work with right now. Meanwhile, Swags has defeated Giovanni at about 151, so definitely still sub 210 pace if he doesn't die. It's not what he would have wanted to get out of his last race, but he can be happy enough with a sub 210 with 0 attack and 0 special. I believe, anyway. Onyx did elect to attack him, which is actually pretty rare. JimB, that is. But it must have been with perhaps a crit rage or a rock throw. Either way, 11 damage is barely a scratch and wouldn't have killed him even if he hadn't healed. Swags is probably could be in trouble here. Doesn't realize that he... Okay, I'm still an idiot. I still keep thinking that Swags has bad speed when he doesn't. He's fine. That X special guarantees that he outspeeds Alakazam because he has 15 speed TV. So yeah, Swags is perfectly fine and he's free Viridian Rival. I need to stop assuming that all of Swags' stats are bad. Swags did try to get the perfect Nidoran, but he either failed the manipulation or he got unlucky. And he got the wrong Nidoran, and he's having to run with almost all 0 stats. But the one stat that isn't 0 is the speed, which has been tripping me up a few times during the run, and I think it's also tripped him up a couple of times. Since he kind of went into a bit of bad stats autopilot in one place in Silphco. But he does realise that he has good speed now, so saves the turn on this fight by using an X on that fight that just went by using an X special instead of an X speed. JimB has opted for a standard Agatha with an X special. It means that you always one-hit the Golbat, meaning it can't use Haze on you, provided you hit the Blizzard. But he will be slower than the final Gengar, which can do up to 60 damage with a Nightshade. Not that that's a concern when he's got 105 health, but usually you don't have quite often you won't have over 60 health when you're in an attempt against Agatha. And yeah, you can RNG manipulate for a perfect Nidoran. It was discovered for speedruns in mid to late 2016, and everyone has been doing it since then. Unfortunately, there are some pitfalls like slight chance of not getting an encounter at all, and slight chance of getting a bad Nidoran if you mess up, or in some cases get unlucky. And in this case he got unlucky. Or even messed up or got unlucky. It's not really possible to tell the difference visually, unless you're watching really hard. JimB through Agatha with no real concern, got Toxic, He decides to Super Potion before Lance, which means he probably won't get into Red Bar, or at least not any kind of deep Red Bar. But it does mean that he's safe from dying to Hydro Pump unless it criticals. And it's impossible to survive a critical from Gyarados regardless of your health. So he's probably done that on the assumption that he should be able to go into Champion without healing either. And secure something like a 159 time. I still think that he could probably survive one Lance Step and still get sub 2, but it might be kind of tight. That's the final X special there. So Gyarados will hit with Hydro Pump like he does 80% of the time. Gets around reasonably high roll actually, so he has Red Bar for now. And he can keep it through this fight with absolutely no risk. But he will lose it naturally just by leveling up. I think. Yeah, just barely. He'll lose it on his final level up even if he doesn't heal. So he probably will heal once before Champion now. For the safety. So he can just go through this fight. He has to hit Blizzards, which are obviously not 100% guaranteed, but nothing on this fight that he has to hit with a Blizzard can actually kill him. The Dragonair is locked into Agility, and the Dragonite is locked into either Barrier or Agility. And he gets the Thunderbolt the Aerodactyl, which is the only thing that could actually deal damage to him anymore. He does hit all 3 Blizzards. Clear through Lance. So at this point, 3-159 if he doesn't die to Champion, possibly still 3-159 if he die once, although it would be kind of tight. He is going to heal. Reasonable play, because he still gets to 159 even with a death. Decides not to save though. I guess if he does reload then he probably wouldn't get it, so go for it at this point. So he's only dead to some form of Sky Attack at this point, apart from, say, 2 Wing Attack criticals. Sky Attack is Pidgeot's most powerful move by far. It can kill you in one hit with a critical, almost all the time, from full HP, so obviously he's not going to survive from this health if it criticals. It does charge Sky Attack turn 1, so I imagine he'll either use another Super Potion or his full restore. He decides on the full restore. Might have a marginal chance to survive the critical here. And... okay, non-critical. So he wins, he just needs to use his final X item. And then he needs to mash really hard to make sure he gets that sub 2. To get sub 2 from here, he needs to finish this fight by 158.44 or so, which should be guaranteed. It is about another minute from here, since he's not in Red Bar, but it should be guaranteed. Provided he's mashing like at any kind of acceptable pace, it should be a guaranteed sub 2, so congratulations to JimB on winning the race. It may have been a kind of sure thing for most of the race, but congratulations on winning, getting a tournament PB, getting an overall PB, and the legendary sub 2, which every runner dreams of, Kappa. But yeah, sub 2 has always been a big milestone in Red for almost anyone. But yeah, he's only barely going to make it, but I think he's still going to make it. Just barely. Looks like Champion's a little slower than I thought it was, but should just be fine. About 10 more seconds to kill the Venusaur, and then about 10 seconds of mashing after that, so... mash, mash, mash! And get the sub 2. Congrats again to Jim on completing the race in first place with a sub 2 time. His first in the tournament, and I think his first overall, unless he's been holding out on us. It looked a little scary after the Sky Attack charge, but thankfully, even Pidgeot is not like favourable to crit or anything. It's only about 20% critical use, so in the end, secured with a rather safe Elite Four, but one that fit the purpose and was enough since he didn't die. And we should see his SRL time in come in pretty much now. And there it is, so won't bother saying what it is until you see it on the stream, because you'll see it in about 20 more seconds with the Hall of Fame finishing. But the race win, of course, has been secured, and the sub 2 has been secured with a final time of... looks like 1:59.52 on the splits, and 1 second higher on SRL, which is pretty standard. So yep, congrats to Jim, he's done, he's won his race. Finishes with a 2-1 record with a best time of 1:59.52. Unfortunately, that does mean he's going to be out of the tournament in terms of the bracket stage, but the task presented to him to qualify was always going to be a bit of an uphill struggle. So I think he achieved his goal in the end. Although he probably wouldn't have wanted to do it against someone who got 0 attack. Hello Jim, congrats on the win. Or I'll just wait until you have your mic plugged in, but I can see that Jim has joined the commentary. Yeah, here we are. Good job on your run and your sub 2. It's a shame what happened to Swags, but...
he talked about it, but he could do it, so running the bad Nidoran. So I'm not sure if that was just unlucky.
Yeah, you do still lose a lot of time guaranteed having the bad Nidoran. He's played pretty well, but I think regardless it would have been a really close race, and you still put in a great show to get your sub 2 and PB and all that.
Yeah, that was my goal, as I said to Swags, that when we planned the rematch, I said I won't practice enough or whatever. I can't get good enough time to go into the brackets. My target is a sub 2 and a good race. Well, his choice of Nidoran didn't make the close race possible, but okay. If he wanted to do it, yeah, he talked about changing to new strats and had some problems with that, so he thought about he could run bad Nidoran.
Yeah, he got kind of rescued by still being on the old strats when he has that old Nidoran, since the new strats and older Nidorans don't really get along.
Well, he knows the old strats. That's what he said.
Yeah,
so
it's the advantage of having run before manipulation. He was still a little like sketchy on some of the menus. In particular, I think he was at some points playing like he had bad speed when he had perfect speed, but otherwise he played perfectly fine. Like, he died in Rock Tunnel, and otherwise it could have been a whole lot closer. I mean, he's still going to be like 7 minutes or more behind you, so it would have been more like 5 minutes difference if he hadn't died there, but it's still an admirable performance with this Nidoran. Do you have any like kind of comments on your run other than saying you achieved your goal?
Well, it could have been a better start. I never had the case that I had to use a potion on the first rival fight. I thought I was in crit range and I couldn't take another tackle, so I used the potion. And then I didn't have the potion in my items, and that... I always play with the potion in my menu and did all the YOLO balls like that. So I knew the button combination to still make the YOLO ball, but I think I was a frame too late or something. But I never did it before. I just knew, okay, if I hold down, then hold up in the menu. But for timing, I never did that before. And the same with Paris.
I mean, Swags didn't get his Yola ball either for whatever reason. It might be because it was the bad Nidoran. And then his actually broke out of a couple of extra balls, and that let you catch up after your bad start. Of course, that didn't end up mattering, but...
I always got my Yola ball in all my races before, but that was with the Pokeballs in the second place. The second slot.
Yeah,
that,
Yeah. No, you go. If you have anything more to say.
What did my split say? Well, and I never met so many Parases in Mamoon. And I think this was the third encounter, starting with the third and fourth encounter after the nerd, after fossils, and I just thought, okay, I know I have the experience, but I want this Paras out of the way, I kill it. I heard your commentary and thought about if it makes any difference after it. I noticed that it doesn't make any difference after that, so yeah. But at that moment, I meant, well, don't think it's worse.
Yeah, may as well. It's just, it got you one extra level, like for that level 14 Pidgey, got you one extra kill, which could have been Trolley if you didn't get it with Sand. I mean, overall it probably still lost a tiny bit of time, but it wasn't a terrible play in the circumstances.
My first reaction was, get this encounters out of the way. I went out of Mount Moon and, okay. Now that they come, I just kill it. Another thing was, for first half, that was the problems that I had. And in the second half, I changed the complete route. I never ran the late Earthquake and the Blizzard Threats in previous races.
Seem to conduct them perfectly fine, honestly. Like, everything is a bit slower, but it's not like you made any major mistakes, so...
Yeah, well, that's the reason why I played a bit more slowly. And made sure to keep up with my notes and don't forget anything, like I did in my practice, forgetting an elixir or teaching horn drill. That's the main issue, main problem for me. Forgetting Earthquake, not so much, because I saw it often enough with commentating myself, but that was the pretty big change, and I don't know if that was the minute that I was ahead then after Victory Road. It's my previous PB.
It's hard to tell. We don't really know. No, you could go back and see what happened in your PB, but not entirely sure what the difference could have been.
My PB was from the first race against Araya, where I had a good first half, and then I didn't get a red bar for gyms.
Yeah, that would mostly explain it, I suppose. Anyway, we got Swags almost finishing now. Looks like he will actually finish about 9 to 9.5 minutes slower. But perfectly acceptable play with 0 attack Nidoran.
Sub 210, yeah. In the other race where Shiro have a bad Nidoran, I mean, what did the chat talk about? That it's still possible to get a sub 2 with it?
Yeah, people have sub 2'd with 0 attack in the past, but getting it with also 0 defense and 0 special, and also kind of being rattled after that happening with RNG manipulation, like, back when people did good times with 0 attack in the past, that was when you kind of half expected to get 0 attack a lot of the time in races, because people just got really bad luck in races. It's not unreasonable to be tilted when you get trolled by the manipulation like that. We say Swags is finished anyway. 209.04 is his final time. So congrats to him on the sub 210 with the trash Nidoran. He might want to come in and talk about that a bit. I'm not sure. It's up to him if he's listening. Or he might just want to be done with that run and let it go. Either one would kind of be understandable, but he has come to the waiting room, so we'll go ahead and chat a bit. Okay, hello Swags. Congrats on finishing in sub 210 with that Nidoran, at least.
GG.
Oh, thank you. GG. Oh, I tell you what, that moment that I realized, like when I put everything together in Viridian Forest, that I couldn't get the no A press Rattata encounter because I didn't step in the grass for that tile. I just everything just went together. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I've got a 0-0-0 Nidoran. I'm sitting here going, should I reset? Like, would it be quicker for me to reset, or would it be quicker to? Because I've already got, I had Red Helper open. I use it for the ranges and that. And I'm like, well, I've ran worse before.
It
Let's
was
just
not
give it a
planned.
go. No, that was not planned. I admit.
You talked
talked
about it.
I made a joke about that in Flutz's stream last night, but no, it wasn't
Oh
planned.
man.
I was completely when I'd noticed, and I just kept going, I'm sitting here going, oh shit, I said about this, but I didn't think it would actually happen. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? Okay, I could just set this up. I know approximately, the gym orders. I know the moves that I should use. About the X items I should use. Didn't realize that Gyarados could actually do 145 damage to me on Lance. I'm sitting here going, oh god, I've got a potion from 140 health. But yeah, apart from that, I had fun, to be honest. The moment that I realized, I guess the biggest moment was when I Gen 1 missed and died in Rock Tunnel, that I had zero chance of winning. I just had fun. I just started enjoying myself, and yeah. Sorry to take up all the airtime.
Yeah, I think Jim has mostly talked about his run of it by now. He had a pretty good run overall with a bad start. Like, you were both roughly tied on the start because Swags missed a couple of extra balls and Jim had a bad Route 1. And then, of course, Forest and Rock happened.
Well, I had a bad rest of the game, so he did well.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So what was your final time? 1:59:53. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good time, actually. Nicely done. Welcome to the Sub 2 Club.
It was closer than I thought.
Well, I knew I'd lost. I knew that I'd lost. So I'm just like, okay, let's just have fun. Like I wasn't trying to. I guess it's hard to say. I wasn't trying to catch up, but I was still trying to go fast, I guess.
Well, I was nervous for the whole run, especially the second half. For complete round change there, to make no major mistakes and being in a fight without horn drill or without PP, enough PP, it was really my. I didn't want that, so yeah, I'm happy that I finished every race without major mistakes.
You didn't get a 0-0 of 0 Nidoran, so
wait a moment.
that's.
Do we? Oh, have to.
So I want to go again.
I have to honor my the Cubone of the first race.
Yep. Well, you won. You won legitimately. So. Exit line split. No, I do not.
Yeah,
do not.
I thought you really had planned it, but okay.
No, I had not.
Interesting outcome.
I admit, like I said, I was talking about it. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I actually just ran the Nido, because it's just the result didn't matter to me too much. So, but yeah, when it actually happened, I actually panicked. I'm like, oh god, oh no, I actually got it. What do I do? that he. When did I enter Mount Moon? I think I entered Mount Moon at about 22 minutes because of how good my Route 3 was.
Yeah, you weren't far behind at all. I think you only lost like 30 seconds to a minute over Jim on that route, and Jim also had a pretty good route 3, actually.
Yeah. My Route 3 wasn't bad, but I ran out of horn attacks, so that didn't help.
Well, yeah, you didn't have a horn attack for the flyer if you got level 8 Pidgey, but other than that, you were fine.
Yep. Well, I had fun. I had fun anyway. It was a good tourney.
Yeah,
I look forward to watching the rest of it.
Now that also I have 3 normal finished races, I'm also, yeah, glad that I can get out of a tournament with a good feeling.
See you in the commentary booth again during the brackets, though. Certainly you, Jim.
Yeah.
I don't know if Swags is commentating at all, but...
I'm always willing to commentate, but I'm a very hard person to find time to do anything with. So
time zones. Yeah, I will be involved in the tournament, I think, yeah. As commentary or maybe restream. If there's no other solution.
Thanks for the restream this morning, by the way. I enjoyed watching that.
Was hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
I cooled my whole room this morning, so yeah, that was good. But final thoughts about the route change or strat change of me. I prepared for this tournament 2 months before it started, and that was the main time I planned for practicing, and that was mainly with the old route, with Outlaw, with all the Earthquake and with Ice Beam and everything. And with the changes during the tournament here, for time and motivation to practice this, I did 1 or 2 runs alone for myself outside of a race, and well, it's not that much fun for me to spend so much time on it, especially for a 2-hour run that I've never did before. So it was, yeah, I'm glad that I could change here in the tournament, the main strats, and finish 1 run with that.
Yeah, 2 wins in the tournament. You can't complain. Really?
Yeah, you beat Araya. You beat Araya, and Araya's, one of the favourites, I guess. He'd be in the top 5.
Thanks to the Cubone. The moment you said was slowly making the deposit of the Pokemons at the end, because I also did deposit my Nidoking in the first race against Araya when he came from behind and almost took me. In that race, my 4 or 5 minute lead was melting the whole second half. So I made the biggest mistakes with the PC and didn't want to do it again.
Yeah, fair enough.
You didn't blue screen, so who would blue screen? God.
Oh no, that's yeah.
Well, I will be challenging you to a rematch from our first 2 races. I do believe I can come closer than 10 minutes to within your time, so expect a rematch sometime.
Okay, we can do that.
Alright, well, I think we've pretty much wrapped out this match. You had your final thoughts, and that is actually the end of the Pokemon Red Tournament group stage as well. We've had 47 completed matches at this point, with 1 double forfeit, but that was just on a 3rd and 4th place playoff, so wasn't overly important. We've got a complete bracket of 16 players now who will need to somehow win 4 red races in a row. One of them will, and they'll win the tournament. I don't know how anyone will win 4 red races in a row, but it'll happen. Somehow.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, Bomb. You had the fastest time in the brackets, I believe. So You are.
Yeah.
You are. You've got my money, I guess.
I wish, huh?
Well, to be able to top Group A. I don't even think you topped Group A. I think you came second in Group A.
Yeah.
And considering you've got a 152, that's unbelievable.
153, but yeah, like I have
150.
the match against Legend Eater in the first round, but then if I do manage to beat Legend, it's probably a match against Araya, who has like the best timing amongst all the first places, so that'd be a match of the 2 best tournament times up to that point, or the 2 best group times. I would imagine that someone will get a better time in the bracket stage when they're kind of having to risk things just to win a race.
Well, I look forward to it. I'll be watching as much as I can.
It just came to my mind now. I want to recap the 3 races. The first one was lucky for me to still win this. The second one against Jim Freak, that was more or less a normal race for him, and I just finished it without bigger problems. And then the deciding match was Araya versus Jim Freak, and really,
Lance decided the group.
Yeah, I lost the brackets to Lance Fair, so
yeah,
that was
you lost
close.
Yeah,
one.
You lost going through to the bracket stages from a Gyarados crit. That's how good this game is, and how close our group was. Really,
if Jim Freak didn't get that crit, then I would be into brackets now.
Yeah,
and the Araya was such a good time without of it. I can't describe my emotions before seeing that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't do a lot about it. I couldn't do a lot about Araya because in my match against Araya, I had, I think, 9 Mount Moon encounters before the lass. Something ridiculous like that. We were within 15 or 20 seconds of each other going into Mount Moon, and then I just got 9 encounters before lass or something like that, and just lost all the time. And then I got the 4 in 1500 range miss on Misty and had to reset there, and I didn't know what to do. And then I got the Gen 1 miss on 4-turn Trash Girl, and yeah, just my run against Araya was worse than this one.
I don't blame you losing against Araya. I didn't expect that you would win this match.
Are you saying I'm bad? God, square up, come on.
Hey, I think you're... we're maybe on the same... We could be on the same pace, and I don't think I would have a normal chance against Araya.
Well, was that a PB?
Huh? Which one?
Was that race just then a PB for you, the 159.51?
This one is a PB, and the first race was a PB for me.
Yeah, well, you've now got a 159.51. My PB is 159.49.
Yes. So equal pace
we're rather
here.
close. Yeah, I reckon it would have been a really good race if I just didn't derp and get the wrong Nido.
Yeah, it would be nice to have repeated the first half of our first match. That was how I felt this should have gone again.
Sorry,
1
I
minute
couldn't
different.
accommodate.
Well, the whole race I thought, okay, if maybe he's planned it, I hope he's prepared.
I was gonna stand with it. Yeah. I just watched the chat and everyone's going, oh no, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's what I'm freaking saying.
Okay.
Yeah. I wish I've had actually planned for it.
Alright, I think that should just about do now. Well done to both of you again in your respective circumstances, and see everyone back for bracket matches probably starting pretty quickly because of a couple of runners not really being available next week, so they might have to try and get their matches done over the weekend. In the meantime, before any red gets scheduled, there is plenty of other speed gaming content coming up. There's Mega Man in about a little over 8 hours, and of course the big ALTTP tournament is concluding this weekend as well.
Yeah, I've been watching quite a lot of the other tournaments to the point that I just my Twitch Prime sub finally became available today, and I subbed to Speed Gaming. I wanted to get that little GG flag and get that waving.
I lost a bit. I didn't watch it as much Speed Gaming as I used to before the tournament, because of practicing and commentating and restreaming. And, yeah. Still following it, but yeah, good stuff here.
You know, all the other games apart from this one I run that are you know, they're not retro games. I guess they're more modern games, RPGs and that. So it's felt good to get back into retro games. It's been a while, so I'm glad I joined this tournament.
Yeah, and thanks to Faisal for organizing and keeping up this channels.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Faisal.
And for whole work with restreaming, and I just know now how troublesome that can be sometimes.
Yeah, big ups to what he's been doing, not just for this tournament, but for a ton of others at the same time. That can't be easy at all. So, GG to everyone involved in making these tournaments happen, especially Faisal, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, for Alpha ones, but yeah.
Alright, that's that, I think. See you later, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Goodbye.